Yeah. Gotta get there fast, Sean. Yeah. Gotta get there fast, Sean. There it is.
Welcome Britball Nation to the Power Rankings for Uniball Division 1 Week 1. Last week's rankings seemed to go down really well. We've had some great feedback, so please remember that if you like our move towards making more video content here at DC, to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ideally give our content a quick share. It really helps us out and puts the British game in front of a much wider audience. Our goal at DC this Uniball season is to up our game in helping your games reach a much wider audience, but we can't do that without your help. All that said, let's jump into it. Before we hit the rankings proper, a quick mention for the teams that featured in the rankings last week but no longer made the cut. The Royal Bears and Imperial Immortals were ranked 10th and 7th respectively in last week's preseason rankings, but after opening day losses they've dropped quicker than the pesos since Senor Trump was declared El Presidente-elect. Royal certainly seemed to lack the offensive production that made them a threat last year, and while the Immortals held off defeat all the way into overtime, Division 1 is simply too stacked with programs with great potential to include any team that has a losing record, even if it is only week 1. Honourable mentions this week go out to the Kent Falcons and Sussex Saxons. The Falcons are responsible for dropping the Immortals out the rankings and yet don't earn a spot for themselves? Well, not quite yet. With the pre-season rankings based largely upon gossip, rumour and hype, we feel like Kent need to prove themselves against a known factor before we're totally comfy nudging them up into a ranked slot. As to Sussex, well, second time just shy of the rankings for the Saxons, who pushed last week's 5th ranked Surrey Stingers hard in week 1, but there's no room in the rankings for a team that's 0-1.
10.
Pirates took down the Bears and with some gusto, a clear 20-point margin of victory overall and already pretty much matching their best offensive output from last season. A delayed fixture against Imperial in week 3, where we'll be able to see how the likes of Kent, UEA and Imperial all stack up after they've faced some common opponents.
9.
Cobras win, but they drop bigly, to use the new Trumpist terminology. Last year the Cobras made short work of the Demons in both their matchups with 2 clear shutout wins, whereas Sunday they had to work hard for the W after Exeter took first blood and nearly came back to tie things up in the closing minutes. They're a strong programme and rookie head coach Sean Cook has some experienced coaches backing him up, so expect the Cobras to raise their game as the season goes on. However, right now it's clear they're really missing the large number of starters they lost in the off-season and are a fair way off the pace they set last year. This weekend's clash against the Solent Redhawks could be very revealing about the state of the 1A Southwest.
8.
Pompey impressed in their first outing back in Division 1. Portsmouth capitalised on Brighton mistakes, Mustafa Kamara picking off a pass in the first quarter to kill off the Tsunami's offensive momentum, while a Brighton fumble within their own 10 set up a Portsmouth touchdown. Mike Thomas punched in a score just before the half, while Callum Brown rushed and passed for a score apiece. One thing to watch for is the Destroyers' kicking game, something often lacking in lower portions of the league. They made all their PATs and converted 1 of 2 field goal attempts. In conferences where scorelines can come down to a point or two, being able to put at least some points up on most drives can be a real difference maker. We expect to learn an awful lot about the 1A South when the Destroyers and Stingers face off in Surrey this weekend.
7.
The Raiders eventually took away a clear win from crosstown rivals the Mustangs, but they made it look hard work through the first half. The scoring opened fast, but then both teams seemed to stutter a bit heading into half time. However, the Raiders came into the third having clearly made the necessary adjustments, piling on the points. We'd love to tell you more about the Raiders, but they've not been very communicative of late, so we don't have a lot to go on. They welcomed the Hull Sharks to Gateshead Stadium on Sunday, and despite their 3-5 record in 15-16, the Sharks were no slouches last year, pushing the likes of Carnegie and the undefeated Rams close last season.
6.
Surrey win, but drop a place while doing so. Putting up 35 points in your season opener is great, but conceding 28? Not so much. Their opponents, the Saxons, actually held the lead for the better part of the game. Running back Nick Agiris had a great outing on Sunday, but trying to win a conference through shootouts is a risky business, and they'll be hard pressed to win a points race against Portsmouth Destroyers this weekend. Portsmouth allowed only a single multi-score game against them in the whole of last season in the Division 2 South Finals and started their year with a shutout on Sunday. Surrey will need to find some defence or expect to start sliding down the rankings, even if they earn W's while doing it.
5.
The Tigers suffer the same fate as others on the list, winning, but by such a narrow margin, but it raises some questions about how much off-season losses might have affected them. Of course, the reality is the Tigers plied their trade in narrow, defensively dominated wins, and we saw similar scorelines against the likes of the Spartans last year too. They had 8 shutouts across 11 fixtures last year, and that's one hell of an impressive statistic. Glasgow had their eyes set on promotion and a Division 1 Northern Championship, and well, you know what they say about defence. Expect to see the Tigers climb back up if they prove their tenacious D is here to stay. Let's see if they shut down the Mustangs this weekend.
4.
Yep, we're cheating and throwing these two in together. Truth be told, we're not sure we could tell the two apart on Sunday, Both played against teams who had gone undefeated in the tier below them the previous year, and both needed their defences to kick off the scoring before they could get any real production from their O. Confident shutout wins for each team, and now a 2 and 3 week gap for the Warriors and Rams respectively before we see either of these two take the field again. Expect them to stay joined at the hip until such time as we can figure out the difference between the pair of them.
3.
The Redhawks rocket up the rankings off the back of the top offensive performance of week 1. The Redhawks opened up the scoring off the back of a dominant performance from the defense, 2 sacks for safeties in the first score to set the tone for what was a miserable day at the office for the UE offense. Quarterback Jonathan Sherman hooked up with Daniel Macbeth for a pair of passing scores, while running backs Josh Bradford and Peter Wheeler punished UE on the ground, busting through for big yardage and yet more points. Not to be outshone, Russ Hewitt's D also picked up a score of their own, a pick 6, rounding out a thoroughly dominant performance, and the worst defeat for the UE Bullets since... The UE Bullets were defeated 58-12 in the divisional round of the 2008-2009 playoffs by the Birmingham Lions, a margin of defeat of 46 points, narrowly edging out Solent's 45. The Redhawks take on Cardiff this weekend, and if they turn over the Cobras like they already did the Bullets, well, that'll certainly shake things up in the southwest.
2.
We were worried the Wolves might have lost a bit of their bite this year, but a convincing win over the Royals showed us they're hot contenders for the Midlands crown and a shot at promotion. Rookie wide receiver Will Huntington-Whiteley, yes, you heard that surname right, had a standout day with the Wolves, grabbing 2 receiving touchdowns, and the Wolves dominated all phases of the game. With the Staffordshire Stallions visiting on Sunday, we'll get our first opportunity to see the Wolves take on their first common opponent of the pre-season favourites Nottingham. And no, we have no qualms about already hyping up these two teams meeting in week 5 this year as a potentially decisive matchup in the promotion stakes.
1.
As expected, a dominant performance from Nottingham. Their 5 sporting scholars obviously played significant roles, building up a healthy 31-0 buffer at the half, before taking the opportunity to rep players through the 3rd and 4th quarters. Displaying the depth of their roster, they held strong for a shutout and weathered the miserable conditions for a solid statement win to open the year. Later today, Notts welcomed the newly promoted LJMU Fury to their rather swank facilities at the David Ross Sports Village. It'll be interesting to see how well the Fury managed to step up to Division 1 balling, and certainly it'll be a trial by fire for the Fury to take on Sporting Scholars in their first Division 1 fixture. On the flip side, it'll be the first time the new and improved Notts take on a team that are used to winning their matchups, rather than a Stallions team still recovering and rebuilding from a gruelling winless season. It's simple for Notts: stay dominant, stay on top. So that's Division 1 Week 1 all ranked up. Do you agree with our top 10? Let us know in the comments down below if you think we've done in America and made some bad decisions. Remember, if you like these new videos, hit that like button. If you want to see more, that subscribe button is waiting to hear from you. And in the meantime, play hard, play safe, and go check out our Week 2 predictions for all of the Division 1 games getting underway this weekend.